Hi, it's Uncle Larry. Well, it looks like younger Canadians are a very unhappy lot these days, and the main issue behind the discontent is affordability. The World Happiness Index has been released again, and the numbers tell the story. Older adults are relatively content, but people under 30 rank 58th in the world for happiness, alongside Honduras and Ecuador. Now, I realize that's just one measurement, but man, that is bad. For those unfamiliar with the report, according to columnist Andrew Phillips of the Toronto Star, the Happiness Index has been published for the last dozen years, and it's shown a slow but steady decline overall for Canada. We were fifth in the first report back in 2012. Now we're eighth. The latest edition, covering 2023, finds Finland is the happiest country in the world overall, and it's held the top spot for the last 7 years, with Denmark, Iceland, and Sweden following close behind. But back at home, Canadian millennials and Gen Z are grappling with profound unhappiness, with affordability emerging as a primary culprit. Affordability extends far beyond just financial considerations, too. Now, of course, it takes in the ability to access necessities, but it also means the ability to pursue opportunities, to have a sense of upward mobility, to foster a sense of security. For young adults, affordability directly impacts many facets of their lives, profoundly influencing their well-being. And I want to look at a couple of concrete examples where affordability is an issue and why young people seem so disillusioned about ever doing as well as their parents. The first and most obvious is housing. The housing market, characterized by high prices, stagnant wages. We know this story. It presents a formidable barrier to young adults seeking to get ahead. Home ownership was once a cornerstone of our aspirations, but now appears elusive. That's one point. Cost of education is another factor. Traditionally viewed as a pathway to prosperity, it is increasingly marred by exorbitant costs, higher tuition fees. Coupled with mounting student debt, it imposes a substantial burden on young Canadians and constrains future prospects. I don't want to dwell on this, but I'm going to take a second to mention high school guidance counselors who continuously push university education on young people. This could be contributing to the problem, but I'm digressing here. But there are secure, well-paying jobs in the skilled trades that don't require a university liberal arts degree. But again, I digress, so don't get me started. The pervasive affordability crisis exacts a profound toll on mental health of young Canadians. That's the third point, too. Financial stressors, compounded by the prospect of an uncertain future, contribute to heightened levels of anxiety and depression, etc. Is it any wonder when young Canadians are surveyed about their happiness, they rank so poorly? Now, I want to tie affordability to the concept of upward mobility. In tandem with the affordability crisis, the dearth of upward mobility casts a huge shadow over the aspirations of young Canadians. Upward mobility takes in the capacity of individuals to improve their status relative to their parents' generation. That's the nub of it. It embodies the promise of progress. It offers the prospect of a better life, better opportunities for their kids. Upward mobility is predicated on a belief in merit, where your efforts and abilities serve as determining factors for success, rising above the circumstances of your birth or your background, where you're from, etc. And here's a really important point. A society characterized by robust upward mobility fosters social cohesion. It smooths over divisions. It fosters a sense of shared destination. When individuals believe in the possibility of upward mobility, they're more inclined to invest in the common good, to contribute to their communities, to support progressive causes, and to actually vote. Conversely, a lack of upward mobility breeds disillusionment, resentment, it fuels social unrest, and the polarization that we see everywhere around us today. So upward mobility is not just a lofty ideal. It's a pillar of a fair, inclusive, diverse, dynamic, progressive society. Are you hearing me? Politicians who pay attention to these basics have the best chance of moving forward with other ideas. But if they try to do a shortcut around these basics and go straight to some other big agendas, they likely won't succeed. Perhaps our current political situation is a case in point. Back in 2015, you got to hand it to him. Justin Trudeau was leading a third-place party into an election, and he vaulted the Liberals to the top and swept to victory. It was an absolutely stunning political achievement, and it was achieved by a wave of young voters inspired by his youth, his optimism, and so on. Younger people largely stuck with him even in 2021, although his popularity had begun to decline and he was in a minority government. But now, those same voters are disillusioned. They've turned decidedly in the opposite direction. You may have seen the polling. Voters aged 30 to 44 favor conservatives over liberals by a 20-point margin. The under 30s are solidly in the conservative tent as well. And it looks as though younger people are responding to the messaging from the Poilievre conservatives about affordability, the need to make home ownership achievable again, and about restoring the hope of upward mobility. It did not have to be this way. Had the Liberals appeared more interested in the basics, they wouldn't have left the door open for the opposition. And I gotta say, in the last 8 years, I have never seen a prime minister so seemingly disinterested in the basics of governance. In interview after interview I've watched about budgets, about deficits, interest rates, monetary policy, keeping the lights on, Trudeau has looked bored. Well, what are you there for, Prime Minister? Keeping the lights on is the biggest part of the job. Interesting times. Now, I realize there's no magic wand to instantly fix the big problems faced by younger Canadians, and Mr. Poilievre may be making vows he can't keep. But at least he's making the noises. He's speaking directly to issues people care about. The Liberals have some catching up to do, but after 8 years, it might be too late. And they won't win the next election by focusing on identity politics or even climate change. Not this time. This is going to be a bread and butter election all the way. It's going to be about affordability and upward mobility.